Bring Me the Horizon. A band whose name has become synonymous with innovation and creativity, but it took them a while to get there. Forming in 2004, the band started off as an aggressive deathcore band before evolving through metalcore and into whatever you want to call them today. This is the first metal, heavier band that we're talking about on the channel, and it's been a long while coming. I'm a big fan of Bring Me the Horizon, but it also took me a while to get there. I used to really not be a fan of metal. I used to never try it just on the principle that I didn't like the screaming. And Bring Me the Horizon was sort of a gateway band for me to appreciate this genre. They also just generally interest me because of how diverse their sound is. I mean, this is one band where I think every single album feels completely and totally distinct from the next. So yeah, that's what we're talking about today. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, because I listen to every single Bring Me the Horizon album, so you don't have to. The band would release a few EPs and singles after they first started, but their debut studio album, Count Your Blessings, would come out in 2006. Yeah, we're off to a rocky start. Now look, I've heard nothing but bad things about this project, even from people who sing the praises of the early days of bmth, but I was going in with an open mind, so I pressed play, and I was very swiftly overwhelmed. I think about the nicest thing that I can say is that the guitar is all right. I've certainly heard better on debut albums and other albums in general, but more often than not, it's at least satisfying to listen to. Unfortunately, that's about the nicest thing that I have to say about Count Your Blessings, because it's really all just downhill from there. For starters, I can't understand a damn thing that's being said on this album, and I know that's the point of it, it's to sell the aggression, and they do that very well, but it's so hard for me to connect with these songs when I can't even understand what is being sung about. I will say that in the time it took me to get from the beginning to the end of Count Your Blessings, it started becoming a little easier to make out what was being screamed at me, but more often than not, this style of singing just ended up being more off-putting. The aggression was cool, but it came at diminishing returns with being able to understand and ingest a song. The other major problem of Count Your Blessings for me is that the entire album sort of blends together and feels like it lacks a lot of core identity. Right off rip, this doesn't necessarily sound like Bring Me the Horizon to me. It sounds like any other band trying to find their start with this aggressive sound, which is not something that I really think of Bring Me the Horizon to be. They've always been innovators to me, pushing their sound to see how weird and experimental they can get. But that's just me. I think part of it too is just I've never experienced deathcore in a full capacity like this. I've never listened to a full deathcore project. It's not really my fancy. So there is just a little bit of inherent distaste that I'm trying to look past right now. With that out of the way, let's talk about the album itself. Let's talk about some high points of the album, starting with Slater. And no, I'm not saying the full title of this song. Sorry. At this point, I'm trying to find anything positive to say about the project, and Slater at least ends off on a high note for me with this breakdown solo instrumental thing that we've got going on, but beyond that, I am still kind of grasping at straws. If there's any songs that I could really see myself going back to multiple times though, I think it would be a lot like Vegas. I was initially shocked when I first listened to this song because it feels like a brief but awesome departure from the insane screaming for some gang vocals. It also features wicked guitar solos between each chorus and verse, and my only complaint is that the song feels way too short, like it's over just as it starts to get good, but that's just me. By far, I would definitely still call this a high point of Count Your Blessings. As for the rest of it, God, I'm gonna be honest, I really don't have that many constructive things to say about it. Here's the thing, when it comes to metal, I feel like I really enjoy a good balance of melodicism and aggression. I need silky, smooth singing voices alongside those aggressive, scratchy screams. There are exceptions to the rule, of course. We're gonna talk about a bunch of exceptions to that rule in this video, but Count Your Blessings is just so difficult for me to get through. Not only that, I do find the lyricism to be a little shallow at times, but that's just me. I thought I had a complete thought there, but it's escaped me. At the end of the day though, that's just my opinion. No hate on ya if this is your album, if this means something really special to you. If you disagree with anything that I said, that's what's cool about music, is that we can respectfully disagree about these things. We can find our own meaning in all these songs. So with that out of the way, let's move on to an album that's a little better. Suicide Season, the second album from Bring Me the Horizon, released in September of 2008. And like I said, it is a step up from Count Your Blessings. Right from the get-go, it just feels like it has a way clearer direction than Count Your Blessings ever did. Suicide Season starts to incorporate the cinematic string sections and a little bit of electronic distortion that Bring Me the Horizon is really gonna come to be known for in the following years. And that alone gives each song so much more identity than anything on Count Your Blessings. That being said, the project is still pretty heavy for my taste, mostly in the vocals again. Suicide Season has its fair share of more shouted than screamed lyrics where I can definitely hear what is being said, but we often do default back to those monster sounding screams. Either way, even if a lot of these lyrics do come out as unintelligible for me, Bring Me the Horizon is still choosing a style and a direction to put this album in, and that just puts it on a whole nother level from the last one. On that note, let's talk about the 3 singles of Suicide Season. Those being Chelsea Smile, Diamonds Aren't Forever, and The Sadness Will Never End. This is already a better choice of singles than the 2 from Count Your Blessings, my favorite of which being Chelsea Smile. Admittedly, this was a gateway Bring Me the Horizon song for me, one that my brother introduced me in early COVID. At the time, I was pretty anti-metal and didn't really find anything to appreciate in the song. About 2 years ago though, I finally gave it another shot after getting more into the band and fell in love with the song. The tagline of "I've Got a Secret" is anthemic and powerful. The guitars and drums provide some insane pacing, and this ambient bridge type section is just chilling. Every time I listen to Chelsea Smile, I feel like I find something new to love in it. It's just such a cool song, and an explosive lead single at that. Of the album's 10 tracks and 3 singles, Diamonds Aren't Forever is probably the one that I'd say is most anthemic, if that makes sense. Even if you're not a crazy fan of this style or this album, chances are you at least know the "We Will Never Sleep" tagline in the chorus. Damn, okay, that's literally all I wrote, okay. The only other track I really found myself coming back to all that frequently was It Was Written in Blood, but I think there's a pretty good reason for that. The instrumental of this song feels so different from anything bmth has done up to this point. Almost like it has some lighter pop-punk drums and riffs instead of the aggressive, crunchy guitar tones. Again, it just gives this project a way more distinct identity than Count Your Blessings ever had, so I have to appreciate this song at face value for that alone. Lyrically though, It Was Written in Blood contains some pretty heavy subject matter, taking a lot of inspiration from Sergei Yesenin's final poem, Goodbye My Friend Goodbye, which was actually written in blood, right before he took his own life. As for the parts of the album that I wasn't so crazy about, a lot of the album does end up there just for the stylistic preference of the vocals and the genre, but one song stands out like a sore thumb as just a giant crap stain on Suicide Season, and that is the Chelsea Smile Travie McCoy remix. Look, I didn't know this existed until I started working on this video, and it is exactly what I thought Travie McCoy would do with a Bring Me the Horizon song. For me, it's just such a jarring blending of styles that doesn't really end up working all that well. It has potential on paper, sure, the styles have been blended before, but in practice, I'm sorry, this one's a hard miss for me. And like I said, the rest of the album just doesn't really grab me all that much. The thing is, I tend to listen to music most when I'm trying to get work done, or if I'm driving, and this early Bring Me the Horizon song is just overwhelming that it pulls me out of those activities, especially when I'm driving. It's just so difficult for me to stay focused when an intense song like this is playing. Nevertheless though, I have to admire the aggression that this project and the last one offer. It is really just cathartic if you're having a shit day just to put on Count Your Blessings or Suicide Season and just like scream your heart out. If you've never tried it, I heavily recommend giving it a shot. Now though, let's move on to an album that I feel like is kind of divisive in the bmth fandom. There Is a Hell, Believe Me, I've Seen It. There Is a Heaven, Let's Keep It a Secret is the 3rd album from Bring Me the Horizon, and it released in 2010. That's one mouthful of a name. Dare I say that this one's a little underrated? The cool thing about this video is that so far, every single album has been a step up in quality from the last. We started with Count Your Blessings, which was a little mid, and then we move on to Suicide Season. It's like, okay, this one's pretty good. And There Is a Hell feels like the biggest step up in quality yet. Even if I'm not revisiting this project all that often, I got to admire it for the direction they took. Once again, it feels like a big push in style towards this grandiose, cinematic orchestral sound that they are going to perfect later in their careers. It almost feels like a transitional album in some ways to me, containing those harsher vocals of the past two albums, but incorporating those grand instrumentals of what's to come for Bring Me the Horizon. So recognizing it sort of as a piece of Bring Me the Horizon's evolution is really cool to me. With that, let's move into the 4 singles of There Is a Hell, those being It Never Ends, Anthem, Blessed with a Curse, and Alligator Blood. Once again, these singles are a big step up from the last collection, starting with It Never Ends. This isn't a track that I go back to all that frequently, but I can't deny that it is such a solid choice for a lead single. It feels less like the band is ripping off a band-aid and more that they're easing their audience into the new sound. It still has the same aggressive vocals and bold guitars of bmth albums past, but begins sprinkling in those silkier background vocals and smooth strings. I'm sure this one goes pretty hard live, but I can't imagine you see anything from this album these days, which is kind of a shame. We'll return to the singles in a little bit, but for now I want to talk about my favorite track on the entire album, that being the opening track, Crucify Me. By far, this is my favorite song from There Is a Hell, also the one that I return to most frequently. Not only does the song revolve around Ali's former ketamine addiction, but it contextualizes that piece of his life with religion, or rather, his lack of belief in any faith. Crucify Me shows Ali disregarding the notion of a heaven or a hell, while also positing that he may just be better off dead, even though people are offering to help him through his struggles. It's a powerful, gut-wrenching, and explosive start to There Is a Hell, our best opening track yet on any bmth album. I just can't not love it. Let's take a pause for a second though, let's go back to our singles and let's talk about Alligator Blood. Similar to Diamonds Aren't Forever, Alligator Blood is one of those tracks that has always been so iconic to me for its main tagline. That scream Russian roulette line is just so powerful. Beyond that though, it almost feels reminiscent of a song from Suicide Season in general. The way the song is structured really reminds me of Chelsea Smile in some ways, but the constant aggression in Ali's voice screams old bmth. A little after Alligator Blood, we get Blacklist. While I can see how it would be distracting to some, Blacklist contains some insanely cool production and vocal filters, reminding me almost of Linkin Park in some ways. Alongside Alligator Blood, this also feels like one of the heavier tracks on There Is a Hell, more reminiscent of the past two albums than anything that comes after it. Lyrically, Blacklist is about former member Curtis Ward, who was kicked out of the band after months of disagreement and tension between him and the rest of the band. It's an angry and vicious song, calling out Ward's constant miserable state and apathetic attitude towards creating and performing music. The band and Ward have since made up, with Ward even joining them on stage a few times, but you can really see just how tangible and thick the band's anger was through this song. And to return to our singles a final time, let's talk about Blessed with a Curse, as well as its extended intro Memorial. I love a good extended instrumental to immerse me into an important track, and Memorial is one of the band's best. This track shows the band using dynamics incredibly effectively. Every verse ramps up into powerful choruses that contain an explosion of pressure and sound. Lee Malia also absolutely rips shit apart with his guitar solo at the end of the track. It's just so damn cool. As far as songs that I'm not too fond of go, there's only one, that being Frick. That sounds so stupid saying, oh my god. Look, I love You Me at 6. I absolutely adore Josh Franceschi's vocals, but this ain't doing it for me, I'm sorry. As good as he is, Josh just barely gets anything to do on this track. I think this is also a song that doesn't really justify its length though. Frick is 5 minutes long. With the subject matter of messy hookups and awkward conversations in the wake of a one-night stand, it doesn't really ever feel like the lyrics of this song expand into anything super interesting or anything that I haven't ever heard before. Alright, so that was about as good as I remember it being. It's definitely a project that I see myself going back to a lot more frequently than the former two projects, so yeah, I'm pretty thrilled with what I received here. So without further ado, let's move on to the one that you're all here for. In April of 2013, Sempiternal, the 4th album from Bring Me the Horizon, was released. Look, you already know this one's good, let's not waste any time. Yeah, look, you already know that this project is incredible. I, for one, slept on it for a while though. I listened to it for the first time in 2022, and I didn't really go back to it besides Can You Feel My Heart? And now, for the first time listening to it in full in almost 4 years, I feel like an absolute buffoon. Hand in hand with There Is a Hell, it does feel like a bit of a transitional album, but it still crushes it. That doesn't make it feel awkward, like the band is still finding their footing or anything. If anything, this is the best their sound has been in I don't even know how long. While There's a Hell was transitional on the heavier side of Bring Me the Horizon's catalog, Sempiternal shows them verging closer towards what we have today. Ollie is singing a little more clearly than just screaming. The instrumentals continue heading in the direction that they're going to be for the rest of their career. It's real neat. God, fucking idiot. I also think this album contains some of the best songwriting in the band's entire catalog. And that's not to say that the rest of their catalog is poorly written, but oh my God. The emotional storytelling and somber lyricism on this album is unmatched by anything else from the band. It's just such a moving album. Anyways, that is more than enough yapping for now. Let's talk about the 4 singles of Sempiternal. Those being Shadow Moses, Sleepwalking, Go to Hell for Heaven's Sake, and Can You Feel My Heart. Without a shadow of a doubt, this is the most consistent collection of singles yet, but one stands out above the rest. Can You Feel My Heart? If I'm being so honest, it's difficult to imagine this track not being a lead single with how iconic it is today, but that's just the case sometimes. Setting aside any sort of Giga Chad tendencies, this is such a powerful and tense start to Sempiternal. And it's no wonder the song got as big as it did with its iconic melody and booming drums. I can also attest to the fact that this song goes absolutely stupid live. The energy at the venue we saw them at was absurd, so if you ever get a chance to see Bring Me the Horizon, I strongly recommend you take it. Can You Feel My Heart is not the only single that packs a punch though, because the lead single, Shadow Moses, is arguably even more powerful than that. It took me seeing this song live to actually add it to my playlist, and now that I have, it's a contender for one of my favorite Bring Me the Horizon tracks in general. Shadow Moses is brutal from start to finish, with crunchy guitar riffs and high-octane drums that harken back to the early days of bmth. It's heavy, Ollie's vocals have amazing range, the gang vocals are chilling. How can you not love this track? This is another one that you just gotta see live, even if you already love it. Hearing an entire amphitheater or stadium scream out the words "This is Sempiternal" in unison, it's unlike any other song I've ever heard live. While I love Can You Feel My Heart and Shadow Moses, without a shadow of a doubt, I think Sleepwalking has got to be the best written track on the entire project. Not only is its production out of this world, but the story it tells is emotional and deeply personal. Sleepwalking documents Ollie's abuse of ketamine and his struggles with depression, almost like he's looking at these issues from outside his own body, like one of those scenes in Doctor Strange where the character's consciousness leaves their body. It's a crushing and heavy emotional song, but I almost see it as a light at the end of the tunnel. To me, I see it as a beacon of hope because Ollie made it through this struggle, and it shows us that whatever struggles we're going through, we can make it through too. So it's nice to have that as a song to kind of lean on a bit. Sempiternal is 4 for 4 on good singles, the most consistent collection yet, and Go to Hell for Heaven's Sake is an important part of that quartet. It's upbeat, it's angsty, it's cinematic and grandiose, and I haven't given the song nearly enough credit until fairly recently. This is one that I would absolutely love to hear live, so yeah, let's no. Most recently though, the track from Sempiternal that I've been spinning nonstop, haven't been able to put down, it's gotta be Antivist. How can it not be? I've talked about this track on the channel before, but god damn is this a great song after a hard day of work or a conversation with someone who just sucks. That's at least the meaning I found in it when I first started listening to the song regularly, but it's really a song about ill-informed slacktivists, as Ollie refers to them as. Right now I'm finding a lot of meaning in this song regarding America's current state of political turmoil and uncertainty. It's just a song that works perfectly for being frustrated at your shitty, corrupt government. So if you feel the same as me regarding any of that, give Antivist a shot, and I think you'll find it to be pretty cathartic. All right, this is the part of the video where we talk about the low moments of Sempiternal, the spots that I really don't like. So let's take a moment. Let's do that right now. Feels good. It's really hydrating. All right, we have successfully talked about every low moment on Sempiternal. On a real note though, jokes aside, there's not a damn skip on this thing. You know that, I know that. So we're not even gonna bother talking about it. For now, let's move on to a project that does have a few skips for me. In September of 2015, Bring Me the Horizon would release their 5th studio album, That's the Spirit. This one's real bipolar for me. This is probably the sharpest departure and style change from anything the band has done yet. And while I personally don't mind the sound they have on this album, I can absolutely see why longtime fans would sort of turn the cheek at this project. While There's a Hell and Sempiternal did stray away from where the band started, it did still feel like that they were drawing inspiration from those projects. They were still keeping it a lot heavier, and That's the Spirit feels a little watered down to an extent. The band leans into those strings a little more and starts getting a little funkier with their production. And again, while I think it's executed pretty well, again, I understand why this would turn people off. That's the Spirit also contains the largest collection of singles yet, a whopping 7 songs, including Drown, Happy Song, Throne, True Friends, Follow You, Avalanche, and Oh No. Now look, there are a lot of places that we can start with these singles, both good and bad, but I feel like we gotta start with Drown. Because even the people that don't like this album like Drown. If you ask me, this song is emo anthem status worthy, with crushing lyrics and powerful vocals from Ollie. What I love most about Drown, however, are the constant pacing and tempo changes. Drown is a song with heavy, darker lyrical themes of living up to expectations, with the singer begging someone to not let them drown. The way this song bounces between high-octane drums and calmer ambient moments really sets the bipolar nature of the song for me. Life is full of ups and downs, and sometimes that cycle feels chaotic, like you can't possibly slow down and breathe for a moment. Whether emulating that feeling with dynamics and tempo was their intent or not, I don't know. But that's what I find in the song, and it helps me relate to Drown just a little more. While Drown is definitely the fan favorite single, I gotta go a different route, because Throne is not only my favorite single, not only my favorite song on this album, but my favorite bmth track of all time. I know it's a basic choice, but man, I just keep coming back to it. The pacing is incredible, the production is smooth, blending electronic and rock styles effortlessly, and the bridge. Oh my god, the bridge. I love this part of the song so much. It's so hype how they pull back into a more reserved tone before building up into this grand final chorus. I honestly can't think of a better way to end off every single Bring Me concert, aside from maybe Can You Feel My Heart. Moving on through our singles, let's talk about one that I think is often held in high regard with the fan base, that being Follow You. This one took quite a while to grow on me, I won't lie. Once it did though, it was stuck with me forever. I mean, I love this song. Follow You is a master of pacing and dynamics, letting most of the song be occupied by quieter guitars and lower vocals as we build into each chorus. While the melody in each of these choruses isn't anything too impressive, engaging lyrical content and spectral guitar tones are more than enough to hold me over through Follow You. It's just cool and atmospheric in all the best ways. As for one that I feel like is more of a sleeper hit, let's talk about Avalanche. This song is just so damn exciting. From the iconic drum fill into the introductory string section, the guitar lines in each verse, it's just so good. I also think it's one of Ollie's best vocal performances on the entire album. He bounces between those lower and higher octaves without his voice ever sounding choppy or faltering. It's a very consistent performance from him. And while it doesn't one-up Can You Feel My Heart for me, I think Doomed is a spectacular opening track to this project, super different from anything we've heard yet. It always catches me off guard because it takes a reserved and quiet sound that we don't see with any other opening track. Now that's not to say that Doomed is an uneventful or boring song though. Each verse very subtly swells into the chorus, which releases a boatload of pressure in an explosive fashion. While I do love this song on That's the Spirit, though, there is a better version, the live version from the Royal Albert Hall in 2016, which features a full choir and orchestra backing the band. That whole album is insane, probably my favorite live album of all time, so if you somehow still haven't listened to it, go give it a shot sometime. Alright, so this brings us into the songs that I'm not so fond of, and there are 3 that I want to talk about. So let's start with Happy Song, one that sort of rides the fence. Now, to be fair, I don't really hate this one all that much. I have days where I love it, I have days where I hate it, but more often than not, it sort of feels like it overstays its welcome. And Ollie's vocal performance in the verses really just doesn't excite me. The cheerleader chants also hit diminishing returns at a certain point, but that's just a personal preference of mine. No hate on you if you like this one. And while I do love the lyrics and message of True Friends, I think Ollie's voice gets really sloppy on this track. It really feels like the dude cannot hold a pitch to save his life on this song, which not only stinks because I love the string sections and guitars on True Friends, but feels off-putting given his performance on Avalanche and Doomed, among other tracks. Again though, no hate on you if this is your song, it's just my personal preference. And as much as I hate to say it, the album ends off on a low note for me. I'm really not crazy about Oh No. While I don't completely hate it, it does feel like a sort of off-putting, underwhelming note to end off on. To me, Oh No feels very un-Bring Me the Horizon, sounding more like a watered-down 2010s radio rock track than something from this innovative band. The lyrics are moving and impactful, yes, but the production takes a huge step back and the pacing is off. I mean, really, I don't think this one needs to be 5 minutes long. All right, well, that was rocky. That was rough. The thing is, I remember really enjoying this one, enough that I got my own vinyl of it back in the day. I used to think of this one very fondly. And yeah, I guess we've had a bit of a style change in the past few years. All right, well, if you didn't like this one, chances are you're not gonna like the next one. Let's move on. In January of 2019, Amo, the sixth studio album from Bring Me the Horizon would be released. This is a real divisive one. I'm just gonna put it out there now. This is probably one of the weirdest entries in the Bring Me the Horizon catalog, but I don't mean that in a bad way. Amo is experimental and funky with a prominent electronic presence across its 13 songs. As a result, most of Amo does get sidelined for live set lists, and while that does break my heart a little bit, I get it. The songs of Amo just really don't fit in with the normal clientele of a Bring Me the Horizon show. And while I personally really enjoy this album, I know that is a very controversial take, so I get it if you disagree with me. This is a wild mix-up from anything the band had done up until that point, and I definitely understand how the style change would once again be jarring and off-putting to a lot of people. At one point, this was my favorite Bring Me the Horizon album, but I think it's fallen through the rankings a little bit since that point. Once again, we are faced with an absurd amount of singles, 7 to be exact. Those being Mantra, Wonderful Life, Medicine, Mother Tongue, Nihilist Blues, Sugar, Honey, Ice and Tea, and In the Dark. I'm gonna take a bit of a weird route here and start with the last single, In the Dark, because it's the only Bring Me the Horizon song that comes even remotely close to edging out Throne as my top track. It's so drastically different from anything BMTH has done up until this point, which does sort of feel like the point of Amo in general, but In the Dark nails that style change better than any other track on the album in my opinion. The lyrics also fit perfectly with the tone and production of the song, creating a tense and almost sinister atmosphere in a short amount of time. If we're talking singles though, it's unavoidable. We can't not talk about Mantra, so let's just do that now. While our opening track is technically I Apologize If You Feel Something, that's more of an extended intro that leads us into Mantra, which immediately follows it up as a bold and powerful introduction to the new sound of Amo. It's also the most traditional Bring Me the Horizon sounding track, which doesn't make it the most agreeable and popular off this album. I mean, I've literally heard this shit at football games before, so I won't deny its impact and the power it contains too. It's just so solid. I don't know if I would necessarily call Medicine a guilty pleasure song, but screw you, I think it's catchy. Once again, the production is polished and clean, falling into that experimental style of Amo perfectly. While some of the lyricism definitely gets cheesy and cliched at times, I cannot deny that it's a song that always gets stuck in my head, whether I want it there or not. And the last good song that I really want to talk about is Mother Tongue, which isn't a track that I go back to all that frequently, but it's still one that I find myself enjoying on each full listen of Amo. A mother tongue refers to the language that someone has known since birth. And with the subtle presence of Portuguese in this song, lines like Fala Amo, it's clearly dedicated to Ali's wife, Brazilian model Alyssa Salles. While I typically prefer my love songs cheeky and on the nose, Mother Tongue is a song that I always find to be deeply moving and warm no matter what. It's just neat. Man, I love it. Now, as for the parts that I don't really enjoy about Amo, most of it I don't think is all that offensive. I don't think it's too bad, but the interludes do drag down the album a little bit for me. While I do really enjoy I Apologize If You Feel Something as a way to ease us into the album, Ouch and Fresh Bruises feel like a little much for the length of this album. I get that they're here for immersion purposes so that we can immerse ourselves further into this project, but more often than not, they kind of just pull me out more than anything. All right, so that's Amo. Not as good as I remember, but not as bad as I think it gets a reputation for. This album gets a bad rap. I'm gonna be the one to come out and say it, but I'm also not a long-time Bring Me the Horizon fan, I guess, if that makes sense. So maybe I'm just coming at it from a weird angle. Either way, we've got one more full-length album to talk about, and then we're out of here. So let's go. In 2023, Bring Me the Horizon announced that a new EP was on the way. A few months later, they would announce that that was indefinitely delayed, and after months and months of radio silence, they would surprise drop a full-length album, Post-Human NeX GEn. Stylistically speaking, this album is so cool. It feels like the band took Suicide Season, That's the Spirit, and Amo, put those albums into a blender, and poured the resulting gunk into my headphones, and that's where we ended up. It's such a cool blending of styles. NeX GEn presents us modern metalcore instrumentals, aggressive vocals that sometimes harken back to the early days of Bring Me the Horizon, and the same deep songwriting that the band has thrived on since Sempiternal. I will say on paper that it is an intimidating listen. I mean, we're talking 16 songs here, some of which cross that 5-minute mark. But while I did used to see this as a negative or as a downside, every time I hit play on this album though, it just flows so perfectly. You don't even realize that the hour is over and then it's done and you're hitting play again. So while it does look intimidating on paper, I don't think it's all that bad in practice. Like its predecessors, NeX GEn consists of 7 singles, those being Die For You, Strangers, Lost, Amen, Dark Side, Kool-Aid, and Top 10 Statues That Cried Blood. Let's start with the lead single, Die For You, which at one point was my favorite Bring Me the Horizon track of all time. Now that I've listened to a lot more from the band, it doesn't sit atop that throne these days, but it probably still at least makes it into the top 5. I am a bit biased because it's one of the earliest Bring Me the Horizon tracks that I really latched onto, but it just feels so powerful and exciting, especially with each chorus. Similar to Doomed and Follow You on That's the Spirit, I think Die For You also uses dynamics really creatively, playing with a lot of quieter sounds to accentuate those loud points. I think the wackiest, craziest single by a long shot though has got to be Kool-Aid, a song that I distinctly remember my first listen of. Watching the music video the day it came out, my brother and I were both left jaw-dropped for the entirety of the song, and it's not hard to see why. From the heavier guitars, Ollie's vocals switching from aggressive screams to melodic choruses at the flick of a switch, and the out-of-this-world production, Kool-Aid just blows me away every time I cue it up. Absolutely one of NeX GEn's highest points. Similar to Kool-Aid, Lost was a song that left my jaw gaping open for pretty much the entire runtime of my first listen. It feels like there's no stopping with this song, like someone cut the brake lines of the car and we're just going haywire. That may sound like a criticism, but don't get me wrong, I absolutely love this track. It's overwhelming in all the best ways. With a distinct hyperpop influence mixed with the trademark bmth NeX GEn sound, throw in a powerful and aggressive chorus and some funky production, and you've got a banger in the form of Lost. Let's stick with the trend of singles that just left me awestruck the first time I heard them, and let's talk about Amen, because holy heavy Batman, I was not expecting a track like this. This is another track that took quite a bit of time to warm up on me, but after years of listening to it and seeing it live, I'm absolutely sold. This track is so damn good. A Lil Uzi Vert feature on a Bring Me the Horizon project would never have been in my 2023 bingo card, but not only did it happen, but the execution was incredible. Uzi's verse, while brief, feels like it perfectly matches with Ollie and Daryl Palumbo's aggressive vocals. And that opening line, Oh my god, I literally get chills every time I cue into this song. It's just so powerful. And to round out our singles, let's talk about Top 10 Statues That Cried Blood, a track that I feel like got a lot of mainstream attention. It feels like another very experimental track to me in some ways. Like Bring Me the Horizon took inspiration from a video game to make this track sound the way it does. It's not just good for novelty or nostalgia's sake, of course. The songwriting is on point, tackling an internal conflict of helping yourself before others can help you. That can be a difficult thing to realize and a hard hole to pull yourself out of, but it's a powerful message nonetheless. The song almost feels like a wake-up call to me, to someone who is going through stuff and needs to help themselves before someone can help them. Whew, okay. We're out of single territory, and we still got 3 really good songs that I want to talk about. So let's start with the opening track, Utopia. As far as openers go, we've had better and we've had worse, and Utopia is pretty much right down the middle of the road. I personally love the track for the perspective it brings. A utopia is an imagined society or place built to perfection, and in the context of this track, that place is a mental state, a state of strong mental health and well-being. Ollie wants to guide someone there to that state of mental health, whether it's a loved one or a listener, but he isn't even sure that he can get there himself. To me, Utopia is a reminder that we're never truly alone, that there are always other people going through the same struggles with us, and that in itself brings me a lot of comfort. Bullet With My Name, on the other hand, stirred up quite the controversy with Bring Me the Horizon's religious fans when it came out, reasons that I struggle to comprehend. Specifically, I'm talking about the line, "And if Jesus Christ returns, we'll just kill the fucker twice." Now, as an outsider, you may understand the reaction from religious fans, but Bring Me the Horizon has never tried to hide their pro-agnostic, anti-religious views. Songs like Blasphemy and The House of Wolves have all contained similar themes to this line and this song, which begs the question of what happened with this song specifically. Either way, it's an exciting, high-octane track with features from Aaron Gillespie and Spencer Chamberlain of Under Oath, and that is enough for me to love this song. In a similar vein to Lost, R.I.P. is overwhelming in all the best ways. It features a similar electronic hyperpop influence to Lost with a catchy melody and electric flow from Ollie. It's not one that I go back to all that frequently on its own, but anytime I queue up NeX GEn, R.I.P. is a high point. With that, we arrive at the low points of the album, and there's really only 2 that I take issue with, starting with Dark Side. I don't even think it's that bad of a song, to be fair. It's just one that I found myself getting tired of pretty quickly after it came out. While the chorus is powerful, I find the melody of said chorus to get a little repetitive. And on top of that, I think the verses are sort of uneventful for my tastes. And while the bridge isn't horrible, it's far from their best work. I will say though that I haven't seen it live, and presumably will be this spring for the second leg of the band's North American tour, so maybe that will provide me some perspective that I'm missing. I've had that before, where I don't turn on to a song until I hear it live, so, you know, I'm holding out hope. Strangers, on the other hand, is a song that I've just never been fond of. I'd put this one in a similar category to Oh No, a track that feels watered down for radio airplay and commercial success. My biggest piece of praise for the track, however, are definitely Ollie's vocals. This is a knockout performance from him, and one that I think is pretty evident of how far he's come since the start of the band. All right, well, I'll be honest, I don't remember NeX GEn being that good. I remember really enjoying this album. This made it into my top 5 albums of 2024, but god damn, I remember being a lot more critical of this album, and I can't really tell you why. 16 tracks and only 2 low points, that's pretty solid. That's a good track record. That's neither here nor there though. We've got some ranking to do, so let's move on to that. Number 7, Count Your Blessings. Yeah, this shouldn't come as a surprise. Once again, it bubbles down to a stylistic preference on my part, so no hate on you if you love this one. Number 6, Suicide Season. It's absolutely a step up from Count Your Blessings, the first Bring Me the Horizon album that I think I would actually call good. It's got such a distinct style. The production is vastly improved from where we started with Count Your Blessings. This is a great sophomore album. Number 5, That's the Spirit. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. I wasn't expecting this one to go so low, but these most recent listens have felt way too inconsistent for me to give it anything any higher than where it's at right now. Number 4, There Is a Hell. Of the really aggressive projects from Bring Me the Horizon, I don't know if you would really call this one really aggressive, but no, it's just so cool. The sort of spectral, echoey guitar tones are just so sick. Ollie's voice is incredible. The production's great. The features are awesome. What else do you really want? Number 3, Amo. Put down your pitchforks in the comments, please. I know this one's gonna be controversial, but the style's cool, okay? Try it out, turn your brain off, enjoy this cool experimental style. It's just neat. Number 2, NeX GEn. I think in the past I've gotten really hung up on the length of this album without considering the pacing of it and the flow of it in general. Because while this album is nearly an hour long, it doesn't feel like it. It flows by so quick, and the style is just great. This modern sound that the band has is just so damn cool. And number 1, Sempiternal. I mean, look, no one's gonna be surprised by this. It's great. I haven't given it the credit it deserves, and I'm going to be doing that in the coming weeks and months. So yeah, Sempiternal's great. So that's it. That is the entire ranking of every Bring Me the Horizon album. But would you believe me if I told you Bring Me the Horizon's best project wasn't even on that list? Oh yeah, it's lightning round time. This damn EP is so f***ing good. Far and away, this is my favorite project from Bring Me the Horizon, without a shadow of a doubt. It took me a while to warm up on it, again, as most of Bring Me the Horizon has, but once I did, it felt like the floodgates opening and my entire life perspective was changed. This EP is unique for a lot of reasons, but one that sticks out to me like a sore thumb is the production, because several tracks were co-produced by Mick Gordon, who you may recognize from working on soundtracks like Doom, Wolfenstein, and Borderlands, among other video game franchises. When interviewed about the project, Ollie and Jordan both cited video games as a huge influence, not just on the sound of the project, but on their lives in general. And it's so cool to have Mick Gordon on this project because he gives it such a unique and thrilling touch. There's also literally not even a skip on this damn thing, so let's just talk about it right now. No holding back, let's go. Lightning round. Dear Diary. It immediately throws you headfirst through a table into this album, into the Mick Gordon production. Just feels straight out of Doom. It's such a cool vibe. Parasite Eve. It's tense, it's exciting, it plays around with its dynamics. Ollie's voice is awesome and unique on this track. Oh, it's just so cool. Teardrops. God, this one's up there with Kool-Aid on the wacky production front. It's got an aggressive bridge and a knockout vocal performance from Ollie. It's just so perfect. Obey. I'll be the first to say that I'm really not a fan of Youngblood's music, but this track is the closest that I've ever gotten to loving him as a singer. Him and Ollie just bounce off of each other so effortlessly, and the distorted guitars in the back are just so damn cool. Itch for the Cure. This has got to be my favorite kind of interlude, one that directly and seamlessly segues from one song to another. It feels very functional. Kingslayer. Yeah, I don't even know how to put into words what this song makes me feel. It's just absurd. Just go listen to it and you'll understand. One by One. It feels weird calling this song catchy because I feel like most Bring Me the Horizon songs aren't really going for catchy tunes, but that chorus takes no time at all to get stuck in my head. I also love the Nova Twins feature because it doesn't feel like they're just on a track for the sake of Bring Me the Horizon adding a feature onto the song. It feels a lot more intentional, and they fit the vibe of this track perfectly. One day the butterflies will leave your chest or some shit. The pacing's incredible. The dynamic use is awesome. That final instrumental section to end off the song and project is great. Also Amy Lee. Yeah, there's not a damn skip on this thing. Even my least favorite track, Ludens, has so many redeeming qualities that it doesn't even feel fair to call it my least favorite or worst track on the album. It's just so consistent. And that is Post-Human Survival Horror. So I'm gonna level with you guys. I was working on another artist for the series before I chose Bring Me the Horizon instead. And that first artist it just wasn't working out. It was miserable for me and I wasn't really sure why. So I tabled that one for the moment, moved on to Bring Me the Horizon, and this one was so much fun to immerse myself in. Sure, there were spots of it that I didn't really end up liking, but the most important thing is that I forced myself to try something new. I forced myself to try out these new albums. And even if it didn't turn out well, I'm happy that I gave it a shot. Take this video as an excuse to try something new. Stop making excuses for yourself as to why you can't listen to that album you've been putting off. And just do it. Rip off the Band-Aid, because you might just find something you absolutely love. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.